welcome everyone to the Sports Consiglieres. As you know, I am Jerry Calla. My partner, Jimmy Whalen, is on assignment today. It's probably better off since he's from Elizabeth and I'm from Jersey City. And our next guest from Jersey City, very honored to have him on. Very storied career for the St. Anthony's Friars. And he excelled at Seton Hall University, played overseas, and now currently the head coach of Wagner University men's basketball out on Staten Island, Grimes Hill. Coach, welcome to the program, and thank you so much for joining us.
No, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
So how's it going in the land of Wagner basketball? I know you guys had a very tough loss in the NEC tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, obviously disappointing finish, tough loss, especially in the fashion that we had. But, just really feel bad for the seniors and guys that, college careers are over, but at the same token, looking forward to see their progressions and their next steps in life. But right now, off-season mode, just like any other college basketball team right now that's not playing. And probably a lot of, I would say almost all of the teams that are playing, you're recruiting still right now for your next year's roster, given the landscape. So, we're focused on that part of it right now, kind of rebuilding the roster.
Now, Coach, before we get into your background, I'm going kind of backwards here, but since you've been the head coach at Wagner, and it seems like recruiting has it changes by the minute for college basketball, what is your biggest challenge at Wagner?
Just getting the right type of person. I think probably that goes without saying with everybody. We're not the per se the high valued look, right? The perception of what college basketball is right now. It's a small school in probably a smaller conference. Although we've had a lot of success since I've been here. I mean, I've been here 9 years, going on 10. We've won 4 championships, whether it be regular season or, our conference tournament. It's tough. It's probably harder to find guys that value that aspect of it right now, given the landscape. But at the same time, you don't try to shift too much. You try to stick to who you are, and culture is a big part of who I am and what my program is about, which leads to me definitely trying to identify character. That's very important to me. But I do recognize that times it's difficult with NIL and transfer portal, but we're adjusting.
So now you mentioned character, culture. If I'm not mistaken, right, you are the third Jersey City guy to be the coach of Wagner's men's basketball. Is that correct?
I am. Yep.
So obviously growing up in Jersey City, what part of Jersey City did you grow up in?
I grew up in the downtown area before we relocated, probably when I was about 13 to the Heights. I actually still live in the Heights right now. That's a big part of who I am. Jersey City, I'm Jersey City through and through. Very proud from where I'm from. Proud of how I grew up and the environment I grew up in. Proud of the people that had a lot to do with where I'm at. So doing how I grew up is kind of a testament to how I'm running my program right now. Really close-knit, tight family oriented, very demanding. And you speak to the culture part of it. It's a carryover definitely from, Danny Hurley and obviously Bashir Mason. I think we all came up in the game the same way. So, which is toughness, hard-nosed, gritty type of players. So, you try to stick to what you know. So that's really what we're about.
And again, I always say this, right? Jersey City, I grew up in Jersey City. It's a very special place. And, you can never, like I say, you can never get away from Jersey City. But a lot of things that have happened, especially like, I grew up, I'm a few years older than you, but growing up there, it's hard to explain the way we grew up, I think, to a lot of people, on the outside. And those are, fond memories that, we have. And, ultimately that's where we all made our bones in, various parts of life. But so now grammar school, where did you attend?
I went to Holy Rosary downtown. So,
okay.
Family middle class, my parents middle class, didn't have everything, but didn't have nothing, and I think they put together everything they could to make sure that I could get a good education. So I did go to Holy Rosary. I'm proud of that. It has a lot to do with my success, just that kind of upbringing right there.
So Holy Rosary right down the street from the legendary White Eagle Hall.
Right.
When did you know that you wanted to attend St. Anthony's and play for Coach Hurley?
You know what? I grew up playing for my father. You know, my father coached at Jersey City State, you know, as an assistant coach. He was assistant coach at Lincoln under Charlie Brown. And I always was around the game starting there, you know, and then obviously back in those early 90s, you know, obviously still throughout until the closing, St. Anthony's was the story program. You know, it was something about, it was Jersey City basketball. If you grew up in Jersey City wanting to play basketball, you knew you wanted to go to St. Anthony's. So, you know, played for the Jersey City Boys and Girls Club coming up, which a lot of former St. Anthony players did. And then my father, who coached me, you know, at the Boys and Girls Club, always took me to games when I was in grammar school. So I remember seeing all those guys play when I was in grammar school, like Anthony Perry, Sean Burno, you know, Delvon Arrington, even watched Carlos Cueto play, Jaleel Roberts, you know, just watching all of those guys, you always was around it. And so I would say from grammar school, I kind of knew if I wanted to play basketball, that's where I wanted to be.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned not only legendary players, but a lot of those guys have gone into the coaching ranks.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and again, it's saying, you know, I always say the St. Anthony's, you know, St. Anthony's closed. It's unfortunate, but, you know, a lot of their graduates and a lot of guys that came through the basketball program are still, you know, making positive waves in the game today. So now you get to St. Anthony's, you know, you're a freshman. You know, who was the first teammate you kind of connected with at the school?
You know what? I went there with, you know, me and Dwayne Lee grew up playing together since we were 8. You know, his father coached with my father. So we kind of went there together. Just knowing everybody already, I would say prior to there, because, you know, I was going in grammar school, 8th, 7th grade. I was going to White Eagle Hall to work out, you know, and practice with those guys and whatnot. So I kind of had a feel in knowing and just being around the guys from Jersey City. I would say back then, you only had a handful of guys that weren't from Jersey City that actually played on the team, you know? So I knew all of these guys already, but me and Dwayne Lee had kind of been close, and we remained close throughout our entire career there.
Right. Now, playing for Coach Hurley, what would you say is, like, what was the first moment in practice when you realized, like, you know, okay, you know, this is going to be, you know, a good experience for me, but also, you know, I'm going to have to really work hard here. Like, what was was it practice 1, you know, minute 5, you know?
I kind of knew what I was getting into. I knew what it was. I knew why I wanted to go there. Like I said, my father was very similar to Coach Hurley. Practice plan from the time we were 8, very disciplined, structured, academic requirement. Practices were very tough and hard-nosed. And still, you know, Coach Hurley's very demanding. So, but I think I like to think I was really prepared for that going in there. But, you know, I came into St. Anthony's as a freshman. I played JV my freshman year. Halfway through the season, I started. And then, you know, sophomore year transitioning to varsity, it was a challenge. You know, I was real small, skinny, whatnot. These guys older than me, you know, 3 years older than me was like a grown man to me at that age. But I thought I competed. You know, I had to learn a lot for sure about competing at that level of the varsity level. But Coach Hurley didn't make it easy. He didn't make it easy for anybody. But I never felt like I was treated any different or unfairly. I thought, you know, he was demanding of all of us. Was it hard at times? But you know what? I knew I just wanted to play hard and compete. It meant something to me to prove that I can play. So from that aspect, I was always okay with the coaching.
So again, you know, your 2 state championships, what would you say was the difference between, you know, those teams?
The 2 state championship teams?
Yes, at St. Anthony's.
You know, we probably, after the first one, we're probably a lot more confident, I would say, going into you know, our junior year. We had a bad season my sophomore year. You know, we lost probably 7 games, which is like unheard of in St. Anthony. You know, like that was
absolutely.
We were the bad news bears. And it was 3 sophomore guards starting, myself, Elijah Ingram, and Dwayne Lee. So we went through a lot of growing pains. And then obviously going into our junior year, didn't know what to expect. We just wanted to try to win. You know, we didn't even know if we were good players. You know, we won that one. And then going into the next year, we kind of had a sense of we want to go out the right way. Now we've kind of been through everything. So I would say from the the junior year championship game, team to the next year, just the team was a little bit more confident, been through a lot, been through those wars already. And it was also good that we had been together a lot. So I think that was probably the difference.
Right. And I think you make a great point is that like a lot of people don't understand in the parochial schools, especially today, it's very, very difficult for an underclassman to really compete and to be successful at the varsity level. I think, you get into like the publics, like it's common, a small group one, it's very, very common. A kid comes in as a freshman, he could play varsity, he could have some success. Same thing as a sophomore, but it's very, very difficult. Like you said, your sophomore year to compete at that high of a level, playing national competition, as a sophomore is really unheard of. But like you said, it paid off your junior and senior year, and you won back-to-back titles. Yeah. And again, how would you say? What would you say taking away from those games? What's one thing that you remember about your opponent in your senior year?
Well, we always had tremendous respect. Coach Hurley did a good job of making us feel like we were playing the Lakers going into a game. So we never took anybody lightly. But I remember the preparation that it took, every practice, every scouting report, all those things going into the game, how hard they were and demanding they were when you got to play your opponent on game day. I don't want to say it was easy, but it was just like, you had rehearsed this so much. Right. And we were just so excited to play another opponent. So, but no, I thought we had a good year. We're still not over the one loss we had because, we finished number 2 nationally. And had we not lost, we could have finished number 1 in the country. Right. But that's the competitive spirit that my team had, and that's what it means coming from St. Anthony's, because every year that was the expectation, tournament, state championship, tournament championship, position yourself, hopefully, to be one of those teams that won a national championship.
Right. Like you said, 7-loss season as a sophomore is really unheard of. And there's a lot of coaches in the state of New Jersey that would probably sign up for that every single year. However, the standard there is very, very high.
Yes, it is. Every day, everything you're about there. And 7 losses, that was probably the longest season I had in my basketball career, coaching or otherwise.
Right. So now, St. Anthony's, you finished your great high school career. What made you decide to go play for Coach Orr at Seton Hall?
Just really built a special relationship with him. He was a lot different than what I was used to. My father, very militant, structured, disciplined, demanding, very similar. Him and Coach Hurley, very identical. Coach Hurley, we've talked about that and everyone knows. Coach Orr was more of the compassionate side of coaching. And I had never experienced that. And he really, of all the head coaches recruiting me, took the time to really get to know me and build with me, I think, the right way. And it taught me a lot. And I built that comfortability with him, the staff, the place. I did have previous relationships with a lot of team there because, through AAU or high school ranks. And for what it's worth, I'm an inner city kid, Jersey City kid. At that time in my life, I don't know if I would have flew across the country to go to school. Seton Hall was right here. I'm a Jersey guy. I'm from Jersey City. I had only traveled really for sports, basketball when I played baseball or something. But I was most comfortable with the school because I had been there. So that was more so what it came down to also.
Right. So what was the other choices for you in addition to Seton Hall?
So I had mid-major recruitment probably up until my junior year. And then over the summer, I played with the New Jersey, the players. And we had 11 high major Division I teams. And my recruitment kind of took off from then. And it kind of spiraled so fast that I wanted to wait, throughout my senior year. But at the end of my senior year, as well as we played, I finished all state, I think. It picked up and I visited Providence. Providence was one of my visits. Villanova, I had already previously visited. West Virginia. Now, it's a funny story about West Virginia. They had 3 coaches in 2 weeks. There was a crazy cycle of things that had happened there. But I really built a relationship with Seton Hall. They had been in it for a long time. So that's really what it came down to. And I'm forever grateful.
Right. Seton Hall now you go and you were actually all Big East team, correct? And that was what year? You were what year?
My senior year.
Your senior year. So you're all Big East team. Now you graduated from Seton Hall, and then that took you to a variety of professional teams overseas. And looking back at that experience, what was that like?
It was amazing, man. It was amazing. I probably wasn't as appreciative going through it. Probably just my youth, probably not realizing what I actually had. But I think I had a successful career, met a lot of people, played at the highest levels outside of the NBA, man. And a lot of people probably don't know the level of basketball out there. But that was great. Just going from different countries, meeting different people, cultures, religions, all of those other things that go outside of basketball. It kind of helped me grow as a person a lot. You kind of look at the world a different way. You have more of appreciation for things, especially back home when you see how, in certain countries, depending on where you're at, how some places are living. But I'm forever grateful for that opportunity to be able to do that. I retired on my terms. I still could have played a lot more years. Honestly, there's guys my age now that I played with and against that are playing. So, but I'm forever grateful, and I'm appreciative because I did have a lot of success, and I'm thankful for that.
Right now, so now your playing career has ended, and your first coaching job, you were a GA, right, at Wagner. That's correct.
Yeah. No, me and Bashir Mason and Dwayne Lee, we've been connected at the hip since we played. Bashir also played for my father. It was the three of us growing up playing for him. And Alex Maribel, who's the head coach of St. Peter's Prep. And Bashir had got right into coaching right after playing. We always, kind of talked and still he came to me with this idea. He knew I had been thinking about getting out of playing professionally because of my son. My son was 8 at the time of my retirement, and I had always talked about wanting to be home, more present, and just be around at that age, especially before he goes to high school or whatnot. And he threw out the idea to me about coming to coach with him as a GA. He really sold it because what he told me, how he told me it was going to be, is not what it is at all. There's a lot of fine print with what he told me because a lot of people don't understand college coaching. Only about 10% of this is probably what you see on the court. But at the same time, as I was transitioning my life from playing to go to coaching, because I always thought I thought I wanted to coach. I didn't know what this meant. I'm really thankful that I was able to get with him and see how he was doing it, because it was a mirror image of how we were brought up in the game. The demand on and off the court, the culture piece, also how the things we do translate to life. And I'm not surprised, but, for that to be my first experience in coaching, it was really who I am. And I gravitated to that. I had other opportunities to go other places. I never really wanted to do that because I believe in what we do and how we did it. And it wasn't like a money grab for me, but it was a great experience working with Bashir. We still talk daily now. I learned a lot from it, and I'm thankful.
Now, as a graduate assistant, they always say, right, the role of a graduate assistant is like a rubber band; it just keeps going, right?
Yeah.
So tell me some of the daily duties that you have as a GA.
Yeah, you got to be the first one in. You got to be there, making sure things are organized. I probably had more coaching responsibilities, but I did still have some other things that I was responsible for. Like if managers weren't there, I had to do laundry. I had to make sure the gear was right. I had to make sure all the logistics and the behind the scenes stuff was working, or assist on that stuff. It was demanding. It was another side of coaching I didn't even think about, because for what it's worth, my playing career doesn't say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do now to get into coaching,
right.
But at the same time, now me knowing that, it absolutely does, because you don't know what this is until you're in it.
Right.
And, that was a difficult transition, but how I viewed it was, this was my role. This is how I needed to be to kind of help us win. And when my time came, I like to think I had prepared myself enough. You never know if you're ready. And then after 2 years, I became an assistant. I was able to get my master's. That's something I never even thought I was going to be able to do. And I'm proud of that. You know, my son, my daughter got to see me walk across the stage. I don't know. They don't know what that meant then, right? But hopefully later on they will. But it's demanding as a grad assistant for sure.
Absolutely. And then again, I think what you're described, and a lot of people in this generation, if you will, I don't want to generalize, but you paid your dues. And I think today a lot of people don't understand what that really means. I mean, you just don't. I was listening to a interview with Jeff Van Gundy, talking about how he worked for Pitino when he was at Providence, and how
Yep.
he was actually going for his master's degree, and he actually stopped pursuing that because he said he was getting a PhD in coaching from Rick Pitino.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's the best way to learn this business. You're responsible, and you went through. I've seen and had every job there is leading up to me being a head coach. So you know what that stuff should look like, when you're involved in it and everything. So you learn it from the ground up. You put your ego to the side, because if this is what you want, that's where a lot of people have to start, because you don't know what this is until you're in it.
Absolutely. So now again, we're talking about, your career. We start out in Holy Rosary, we go to St. Anthony's, we go to Seton Hall overseas. That leads you to Wagner, as a GA, as an assistant coach, and now as the head coach. So everybody has what they refer to as a special place, growing up. And I know, your dad and you, a big part of your upbringing was a lot of time was spent with Mr. Greenberg, at the Jersey City Boys Club, and unfortunately, Gary passed away. Anybody from Jersey City that has lived there for probably more than 10 seconds, should be aware of what Gary meant to the city's youth, to what he meant to the Boys Club. I had it as personal experience. As a CYO player in the 80s, that was like being from Greenville. I thought that was like a big deal. Like our coach would take us down to the Boys Club during the summer. That was like big. You're from Greenville and you're like, wow, we're going downtown to the Boys Club. It was a big deal. But Mr. Greenberg impacted so many people. I know your family was close with him. Could you just please touch upon, what, he meant to you and what he did for the, for the fellow residents of Jersey City? Because it goes more than just basketball, and it goes more than the Boys Club, as we all know.
No, absolutely. And I couldn't have said it better myself, just what he meant to myself and the people of Jersey City, the youth. I don't know how many people there are like him that were just so self-sacrificing to kids and the youth, and the amount of effort and time and work it took to making sure that there was a place that was organized and accepting of the inner city youth. He did not turn anyone away. I come from a time where if everybody I know growing up from Jersey City and my relationship pretty much almost started at that Boys Club, and we were coming from all points of the city to come there, and it was the after school programs that you had there, the little snacks they gave you, just the stuff you were able to do there came from Gary, how he was accepting of everybody else. And not just that, he cared personally about everybody. He wanted everybody to have a chance of success. And when you did something, when there wasn't, not forget about basketball wise, I remember any academic awards you would get, or any type of community awards that kids would get, he was so proud to let other people know about that. Anybody. He wanted anybody to know about it. And it wasn't a bragging thing about him. It was more so to, one, highlight that person, but also highlight how inner city kids can achieve these things if people are invested. And that's what I kind of take away from him, and what my experience was there. We spent a lot of time there. My father coached at the Boys Club, Jersey City Boys Club for so many years. He still does right now as a volunteer. And we just kind of talk about how Gary was and whatnot, and the amount of work it took to kind of just keeping that place together, how it was, and all the people he influenced and helped and touched over his life. I mean, I don't know that we will see another Gary Greenberg. to that extent of who he was, because he had been doing it for over 50 years. So really, really heartbroken by, obviously his passing. I thought it was really, everybody knows it was unexpected. But the memory he's left off in Jersey City and in the youth and the kids, the boys club, I think that's something that will last forever for sure.
And absolutely. And, we'll never see another Gary Greenberg, I don't believe, in our lifetime.
No.
And again, which is what makes him so special. But again, he's what you really call as somebody, he's the Jersey City icon. That's what made the city so special. And, just think of how many people's lives that he touched over the years. 50 years, it's an incredible run. I just referenced a brief experience I had, at the boys club in the 80s. That's how many years ago. So, and he was established, way before that. So moving on, and again, like you said, it was a sad moment, for Jersey City, to see him passing, untimely. What is, as far as, because I'd be remiss to ask you about this. So now Dad, who I actually coached against, believe it or not, a total gentleman. How does Dad now, Donald Sr., how does Donald Sr. Advise Donald Jr. After a Wagner basketball game?
It's very interesting. He doesn't watch the games. He does not like the pressure of it. He's come to a couple. I'm not gonna say he hasn't seen any of them, but he's always it's very simple with him. It's not strategic. He's spoken like a coach. Just keep him playing hard and keep him defending. Get him playing hard, keep him defending. He's not going to try to tell me strategic stuff. I think he understands he's not at practice every day. He tells me exactly what I need to hear, because sometimes you get caught up in trying to overthink in certain things. At the core of myself and him, how I came up was get him playing hard and get him defending. And that's really all I need to hear, honestly, because you get lost in so much other stuff. But that's what winning is, right? Like you're gonna get him playing hard and defending. You will always have a chance to win.
Right. So now because he coached you basically up till high school, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was actually funny. So quick story. I had a 6th and 7th grade team out in Bergen County, and I felt the kids were getting a little too comfortable. So Dad contacted me. We brought them in, and it was a great experience. And a great guy. And again, that's one thing that, like, even then I'm coaching 6th and 7th grade basketball, and just to have my kids, see how hard other kids play, how they're fundamentally sound, how they defend, it's a great experience. And again, ultimately, like you said, your dad is a big part of your life. He volunteered a lot, to the game. And, again, just to allude earlier, he was a part of, the legend at what was Jersey City State, now NJCU, Charlie Brown, another legendary Jersey City guy. So again, I'm sure those, experiences definitely, helped you shape the way. And then, you obviously played for Coach Hurley. So now moving along, I have to ask you, I did work in Staten Island, so we got to go a little personal now. What is your favorite place to eat on Staten Island?
Oh man. I got to say probably Duffy's.
Okay.
That place is, typical, restaurant bar atmosphere, always get a good burger there. They put it on an English muffin for you. So that's like not common, right? So like I kind of like that.
Coach, I'm Italian, so you knew at some point we were going to get to food in this segment.
Oh yeah.
So how about pizza?
Danino's.
There you go. I was quick story. I was nervous you were going to say, and I love the place. Joe and Pat's was there for many years. Funny story is I saw probably about a half a dozen times when I was working over in Staten Island. At the time, Coach Wittenberg, and that was the only place that I ever saw him was Joe and Pat. So I'm glad that you said Danino's. Danino's is an institution in Staten Island.
Yep. So
now you said you still reside in Jersey City.
Yep. I'm in the Heights.
Okay, very good.
I live, pretty much in the same house. I bought it, renovated it. Obviously, I'm sure you're aware of what's happening to our area and city or whatnot. Yep. Just the value of a house like this. I was fortunate just to kind of really rebuild the house using the space. So I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to do that.
Right. Jersey City Heights has made it's unbelievable what has happened these last few years. I mean, everybody hears Jersey City, they think of downtown, but the Heights is back, as they say.
Oh yeah. No, it's really up and coming. Just they're building high rises and all types of things. Yep.
So now going forward, what should we expect now? So for somebody in your position, obviously you'll watch the tournament. Unfortunately, you guys are not in it. But what goes on now? Like, are we just all in now for somebody in your position, all in for recruiting?
Yeah, that's what this time of the year is right now. This era of college sports, the transfer portal, NIL, recruiting kind of never stops. Honestly, it shouldn't stop even before this, but it's taken on a whole new challenge with that. So really around the clock, making phone calls, watching a ton of film right now, as far as you have to kind of recruit transfers because everyone else is going to be old. I know that puts a lot of high school kids at a disadvantage. But it's really what the NCAA has opened the door for. Everyone's going to try to get old and stay old. But yeah, no, we're recruiting. I like the guys we're kind of in the mix with right now. We're going to have a lot of turnover with next year's roster for sure, but we got to get the right guys. The character piece is really, really important to me.
Now, Coach, if you had to put a percentage on it, right, for next season, what would be your portal to high school percentage of the players you're bringing in?
I can't say. I have one incoming freshman right now. I have one guy who is on my team this past year as a freshman that redshirted. So now he's going to be a freshman. To be honest with you, 13 scholarships, you don't want to probably have more than 3. It's just and there's good ones. There's really good ones, and it's not about them not being good. It's more so the experience level. So now you can plug in a really good freshman with probably some older guys, and now he ends up enhancing his game. Can you have 4 or 5 of them at the same time right now in this landscape? I don't think so. There's guys, there's super seniors, as we like to call them. This guy's 25 years old. Some guys freshmen are 18 years old. That gap is large. So probably 3, I would say.
Okay. So, I mean, right there, though, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you're talking 7 years.
Yeah, no.
An 18-year-old kid coming in as a freshman, a 25-year-old kid. I mean, would you say that not necessarily just Wagner, but college basketball in general, we're probably looking at a high school freshman, more red shirts, if you will, than we've probably ever going to see, right?
Yeah, again, I don't possibly, right? But again, you don't know till you get him there. I got a freshman last year, kid from Chicago, who I took in July. Okay, I took him with the expectation of redshirting him because I had one senior and a junior who had played. Both those guys played large minutes in my league. Okay, he wound up starting as a freshman, so you don't know,
Right.
And again, I'm fair. You get here, you can compete.
Right.
I don't have anything written in stone. I know everyone goes into what expectations are, what they think, but it's all guesstimates anyway. We get out here, we start practicing. You see who can retain what, who goes hard, who gives you every day, who pays attention to the little things. You wouldn't expect a freshman at that time to grasp it that way, but there are some that do. And for what it's worth, my first 3 seasons here at Wagner, I've started a freshman, and with not knowing that they would be starters. But I'm also going to be fair. But I know you probably don't want to have a lot of freshmen, and it's nothing against them. Again, it's just what college basketball, college sports in general is. They can transfer every year. They can, So the team I'm going to play against has 23, 24-year-olds.
Right.
I can't put. You're just not able to put out 3 guys that are 18 on the court at the same time. It's so it's difficult.
Right, and I mean, listen, going forward, I mean, this is the environment. This is what they created. So you either embrace it, ASAP, or you're going to be behind. I mean, I know we can sit here and we can debate, if this is good or bad for college sports, but it's the reality of it.
Yeah, I think this, we're recruiters, so like parents and high school coaches and AAU coaches, the ones that are, trying to help out their kids. I don't hear it no other way. They're frustrated, right, with us.
Right.
But at the same time, like you're recruiting now, right? This roster I'm putting together now, I have no clue who's going to be here that following year.
Right.
You don't know. So it's hard to take a freshman early, honestly. It's hard to want to take a freshman when you're replacing all veteran guys. So again, like I said, I get the frustration from parents, AAU coaches, the kids in high school. It's just that we're a product of the era right now. This is what it is, and we didn't make the rules. Like, we're just trying to figure our way through them. But I do think there are good high school kids. They're good high school players. You got to really focus in on identifying them and figure out more so where the fit is in your program. That's more so the bigger thing.
No, absolutely. Now, again, I think, like you said, let's use a local team as an example. Would Rick Pitino be able, if it was the old way, if you will, to do what he did in year 2? Probably not.
I don't know. He's kind of done it before,
right.
So he's been
consistent. No, his year 2 is amazing.
Yeah,
wherever he's gone, his year 2 is tremendous.
He's probably adjusted faster and quicker than anybody. But obviously he has things in place,
sure,
that can help. But at the end of the day, you do have to coach. So I think he's done a good job of that. But all of us, we're still trying to figure it out. There's no exact science to it, and it's changing. It's evolving. You have to at least give yourself a chance. You have to be willing to adjust, and I think that's what we have to do.
No, absolutely. It's changed, and again, like you said, the frustration is there. Parents, high school coaches, AAU coaches. I mean, but listen, this is what the NCAA did. And ultimately, you guys didn't make the rules, and you're just trying to negotiate, the best possible way that you can. So now. What would you say is like, you've been in the NEC conference, you've been with Wagner for 10 years in various roles. What is the biggest challenges for the conference, if you will, coaching in the conference, if you will?
I would say there's great coaches in this league too. The amount of things that we're able to, the guys are able to accomplish and just get through. Cause like none of us have the most amazing resources. There's a lot of challenges that come with our level, I would say, especially in comparison to the higher levels. You just have to get the right type of kid that fits your school for sure, as opposed to where these other levels can just go get the highest paid player, whoever they can afford. Then you got to get guys that are going to be good in your school, good in your area that you're at. Because it's a difficult job. It's hard, You got to take a lot of chances on some guys, especially with the transfer portal, how this is right now, But I have a ton of respect for all the coaches in this league, because I know the obstacles and challenges that we all face together.
And now, what would you say is your least favorite place to play at?
I would say right now it's probably Mercyhurst, all the way in Lake Erie, Pennsylvania. Just the trip up there is difficult and tough. I mean, they're just new to the league, but their coach does an amazing job. Also, he's been at Division II level for a while, and he finished third in our league this year. But
how many hours to that place, to that venue?
7 hours. 7 hours. Ooh. Yeah, it's tough. No right way to kind of map out that trip, but that's a difficult one. But no, I think all these places, it's difficult, especially, our league now. I've been in the league since 2015, 2016. More so than ever, it's a little bit more spread out, which I think that probably is the biggest challenge, the travel that we all have to kind of go through right now, and navigate through that with what we can do. So.
Absolutely. So here we go. We're going to play what I like to call a little lightning round. I'll say a person's name and you give me the first word that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Donald Copeland Sr.
Demanding.
Bob Hurley Sr.
Oh, man. Super. Man, I guess I can't use demanding, but
In this
Tough.
case, we'll
Yeah.
let that pass.
Yeah, no, he's very demanding.
Very. We'll use 2 words for him. Very demanding.
Very demanding. Yep.
Lewis Orr.
Compassionate.
Coach Mason.
Oof. Hard nose.
Coach Holloway.
Ah, man. Tough. I've never coached with him, but tough.
Coach Cipriano.
Oh, man. My guy, Pete. He's a worker.
So now, again, I just brought up Pete Cipriano. He's on your staff. Can you talk about him?
He's on Bashir's staff.
I'm sorry. He's on Bashir's staff. I'm sorry. He's a St. Peter's guy.
Yep. No, Pete and I played together in high school, man. Just amazing.
That's why I brought him up.
Yeah, amazing person. Went on to have a really good college career and really successful coach. He's won a couple of NCAA championships at Southern. He won an NCAA championship at St. Peter's. So he has a lot to do with the success he's been around.
Absolutely. So now, again, Coach, I just want to say, thanks for coming on. It's been an honor. We got a little criticism. Our last 2 episodes were about soccer. So some of our avid listeners will be happy that we had you on for the tournament. So before I go, just a few quick things. Who's your Final 4?
Well, I got to kind of relook at it, but just off the top of my head, I would say I don't try to dance around a lot right now. I think the easy answers are probably Auburn, Duke, Florida. I don't know what the brackets break up to.
Who would you say takes it all?
Oh yeah, St. John's is there too. They're doing well. Man, I like to say Auburn. I think they're really old and deep, and they can defend and score. So I could see them kind of making a run, I think.
All right. Well, I don't want to say we'll hold you to that, but
no,
so
don't.
Again, listen, I really appreciate you coming on. It's great to have you on. Division I coach, a storied career as a player and as a coach. Next year, if it's okay, I'd like to get you on before the season,
sure.
before your season, and really preview, your team, your kids, and the NEC, have like a Wagner preview. And, I'm actually going to make a commitment to come. I'll bring my wife. We'll come out to see you guys play.
Okay. I appreciate that. You're welcome. Yeah. Just let me know anytime.
Absolutely. Again, this closes out episode 43. I am Jerry Calla for the Sports Consiglieres. Our guest, again, Wagner men's basketball coach, Donald Copeland Jr. Thanks for joining us. Special shout out to our producer, Dave Sturcio at Chop Sports Media. Have a good day and catch you soon.